Hello, and welcome to As Built, the podcast from Graphic Machine about architecture firms and buildings and how both get built. I am Patience Jones, your co-host. With me is
Brian Jones,
our other esteemed co-host. Thank you for joining us. In today's episode...
Do we need to have a countdown before we start on today's episode? Or
we do, from like 100. Yeah, it's going to be a riveting episode, kids. Riveting. Today, the reason for the countdown is this is, I believe, the last episode of the calendar year. And today we're talking about New Year's resolution pressure.
Boo.
Yeah, it's the worst. New Year's can be a time of great joy and reflection and hopefully peace. But what usually comes along with that and often overshadows it is the feeling that I didn't do enough in this current calendar year. And in order to overcome that, I have to set really high obstacles for myself and really high barriers to overcome for the next year.
Yeah.
So,
and do it in the coldest, darkest month of the year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The irony of that is just terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Like many of us have seasonal affective disorder. We're dealing with, all kinds of holiday family drama and unwanted weight gain and what have you. But no,
let's
hurry
amp
up.
It up.
Yeah. Hurry up and chart out a way to be the best possible version of yourself, preferably in the next 30 days. Yeah. It's terrible.
Real recipe for success there.
But it really feels inescapable.
Mm-hmm.
And the part of New Year's that's great is sort of like a clean slate mindset, which, footnote, you can take on any day of the year. It doesn't have to be January 1st to adopt a New Year's mindset. And I like to sometimes have multiple New Year's days throughout the year where I just say like, nope, New Year, because why not? I mean, January 1st, May 17th, who cares? But for your new year, it can be great and liberating to think, okay, I'm leaving all of the things that were unpleasant or bad or unfortunate or didn't turn out the way I wanted them to. I'm leaving them all behind. That was last year. This year, I'm going to do better. It's going to be better. That is a really refreshing and helpful mindset. When it doesn't get helpful is when you say, okay, here are my 86 resolutions for this year, and I'm going to meet all of them. And I've come up with this elaborate calendar for the full year of everything I'm going to do every day to achieve the goals for the next year that I am setting out today. Why doesn't that work?
Well, I think because you might be let's assume you're starting at 0. And I'm not saying that most people are, but it's just for argument's sake. Let's say you're starting at 0 and you now have 86 new things that you're trying to accomplish. Your odds of success are not good with that particular mindset. I think it's so you didn't get more hours in the day. You have the same amount of work that you had previously. So it's a bit of a magical thinking that is usually employed in that moment. And, it's easy to get swept up in that for sure. I think that what can be really productive, though, is setting out some reasonable goals for your year, and that there are milestones that you check in and say, where am I in progress to this? And not, so it doesn't become this pressure cooker of everything is a failure by January 3rd.
Yeah, because the more things that you quote unquote fail at, the harder it is to achieve the things that you have left on your list, because what you're doing is reinforcing in your subconscious that you can't achieve any of these things. And it is so much better to set a small goal that you can do. And it's okay if that doing requires some effort. It's probably better, but not so much effort that you can't do it or that you start to drop the ball on other things because you're having to put all of your effort into this one goal that you maybe picked arbitrarily.
Well, and that's a really good thing to dive into a little bit, which is the picking of the goal. It should be, something that is helpful to your growth as a firm or your personal growth. but specifically in growth to your firm, that you have maybe other stakeholders involved in coming to that decision, that it isn't all on your shoulders, that you're talking about like, this is what we're going to do for the next 90 days, or 6 months, or whatever the period of time that you decide it's going to take you to accomplish that particular goal. And here are the milestones that we're going to hit along the way so that we know, are we on track to reach our goal, or are we falling away from that? And it's those measurements are really crucial, because then you know, like, oh, we need to put more resources towards this, or we're unlikely to finish it in the 6 month that we set out for ourselves, and so maybe it needs to be a 9 month project. Whatever the thing happens to be, this is just a really good way where it stops to be less overwhelming and more productive.
Well, and the setting those periodic check-ins, whether they're monthly or quarterly, also keeps you from doing the hourly or daily check-in where you say, "Oh, I didn't reach this milestone today," or I've divided my milestone among, the next 30 days, and on day 2 I didn't hit what I was supposed to hit, so I guess I failed at this. It's more important to say, "Okay, I'm gonna get this done over the 30 days and get it done over the 30 days," than it is to be trying to kind of micromanage yourself, because you will have slip ups and you'll have days where you don't get to spend as much time on that thing as you thought, but then you have the opportunity to make it up. Or maybe you decide 20 days in, like, this goal doesn't make any sense, or our business has shifted, or I want to tweak this a little bit. It's important to leave room for that too. Otherwise you're just so hell bent on achieving this goal that you set out for yourself, which is also why setting goals for 12 months on January 1 is in some ways a waste of time,
Yeah.
because things will change. Priorities will change, markets will change, industries will change, technology will change, and what seemed like great goals on January 1, maybe by June 1, there are new opportunities weren't even, you know, able to be contemplated on January 1. And if you're so stuck on, but no, these are our goals from January 1 and we have to complete these goals and we can't divert any resources, well, now you're going to miss out on all those other opportunities because they weren't on your January 1 list. Or if you have things that just don't make sense anymore 6 months into the year, maybe your goal for September now has to change. You have to leave room for that. At the same time, you do have to plan. So quarterly planning is it's a really good thing to do. And you can have your goals if you want to set them out, but be open to changing them.
I mean, I think that is a really crucial thing, is, it's okay to write down what you might have as a yearly idea of where you might want to head, because I think it does help orient the business a little bit to get you down the road. But without that flexibility to adapt as things come up, as priorities shift, as needs shift, you may be wanting to head in a different direction than you knew that you would on January 1, and that's okay. That sort of ability to adapt is really critical.
And try not to mix your personal resolutions with your business resolutions. And by that, I mean, if you've set out that, you're going to run, you've never run before, and January 15th, you're going to run a 5K and it doesn't work out for you, keep that in your personal ledger. Don't let it transfer over to how you feel about your firm and your business goals, because it's really easy to conflate those two things. And if you feel like, well, I failed at my personal goal, no matter how unrealistic it may have been, you failed at it. And so you're just a failure at everything, and goals are stupid. And, you know, there's no point to trying anything on the business side either because you're a failure. That's really a recipe for disaster, and it happens all the time. So it's difficult, but really try to remember that those two things are different. And maybe if you have a lot of big goals for your business for this year, maybe do yourself a favor and pare back a little bit on your personal improvement goals, because you only have so much, you're a human being, you only have so much resolve, and you need to figure out where you're going to put it.
And, it's by picking a couple of things that you're working towards in a quarter or in 6 months, you really are making it more likely that you'll successfully complete those items versus you got basic starts on 40 items. And a start is a start, but you didn't get to the outcome that you wanted. And so you spent a lot of time, in the 40 starts that you can't really show much for at the end.
Yeah, I mean, focus your resources. It's a little bit like, in some ways, it's like donating money to different causes. You can give $5 to 40 different organizations, or you can give 200 to one organization. Discuss the merits offline, but for purposes of your business, you want to focus those donations because you want to make the most change and the most impact in the goals that you've decided are the most important. You don't want to be spreading your resources and your staff too thin.
And, we've talked about the idea of, firm culture, that a way to improve it is by having these kind of goals that everybody understands are happening, and to get that buy-in and to make people feel part of the process, but also feel like there's a plan for where things are headed. And that helps reinforce that confidence in the firm as a whole, which is pretty important.
And if you're able to share that goal with the firm and maybe pick one and you make it like a big event, okay, our goal for this year is, maybe it's we're going to increase our presence in the healthcare market. Well, that can mean a lot of different things, which allows you the flexibility to change specific tactics if you have to, depending on market conditions. But it also allows people to feel like they're part of it. They know what they're working for. They know why things are important. They know how to they're equipped with what they need to be able to make decisions during their day and their week when they know what your goal is.
And you're touching on something that is really important to the process of this, is like who's accountable,
Yeah.
and who's ultimately driving this project. Because I think one thing that can often happen is that everybody agrees it's a great goal and nobody's in charge of making sure that it happens. And that's the surest way, especially in a larger organization, and frankly, even a smaller organization, that something won't happen, is that everybody else thought somebody else was going to step up and do it. Well, if you don't assign that out of the gate, it probably won't just automatically happen.
Sadly, no. That's always the biggest disappointment. Like, where are the, Santa's elves that come and make all these things magically happen? And it will seem like other companies and other people are able to make them happen. Like, there's so much just like bull that gets put out in the world about, oh, I did this the first 30 days of the new year, and oh, what are your resolutions? My resolutions are these 40 things, and people lie. People make stuff up, people exaggerate. Even if everybody's telling the truth, it just doesn't matter. It's not you, it's not your business. Don't feel like you have to make different decisions because of what, your neighbor next door is doing or the person you went to school with. Don't get into that trap.
And it is.
It is. And then, so what? Congratulations. You both did exactly the same thing.
So what do you think the big takeaways are here?
I think the big takeaways are don't get overwhelmed by the crazy train that is New Year's resolutions. Pick out a couple of things that you want to see your firm do this year, and then figure out 90-day check-ins for parts of those so that by the end of the year, you've accomplished what you want to accomplish. But also, if you need to change those or pivot from them throughout the year, legitimate reasons, you're able to.
And my takeaway is going to be the broken train or broken record, which is like, have a strategy.
Don't break the train.
Yeah, have a strategy and, pick people to be, running these initiatives, because that will help it become more likely that they will be achieved.
Yeah. And it also, it helps people feel like they're part of the team and they're empowered. When you trust them and say, okay, this is really important to the business and I want you to spearhead it. That's a big deal.
It is.
Well, thank you for spending your 2023 with us and your time. And our New Year's resolution is to keep doing this podcast and bringing you more advice and more interviews with amazing architects. So happy New Year, and we will see you 2024.